Welcome to the Business and Bubbly podcast. This is the place for women in business who are on the journey of building their big ideas and want to have fun along the way. It's for those of us who also know we aren't meant to do business or life alone. Hi, I'm Charity Majors, your host and the founder of Business and Bubbly. Think of this kind of like the can I pick your brain chats that you've always wanted to have with those who are doing epic things, plus business besties, hype girls, and getting into massive action towards your next big idea all in the same place. Oh, and bubbles, because if you're not having fun along the way, you're not doing it right. Together, we'll unlock what it means to be seen, known, heard, and championed all along the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and being a woman in business building big dreams. Each week, I'll bring you a quick sip business tip, as well as interviews from top experts that make you feel like you're getting bottle service for your business. We're having the raw and real conversations and chatting about all the things, the messy middle, the pivots, scaling, the good days and the bad days, because here we do real. It's where we can work hard, play hard, cry it out, and dance it out all at the same time without being judged. This is a place where we are in the arena together and we are each other's biggest fans because most of us have enough comments from the cheap seats. It's where our too much is par for the course and where the gaps of our not enough are filled in by the other epic women that are around us. It's where we can be unapologetic about the mission we are on, about the big dreams on our heart, and the business we are building without having to be perfect or have it all together, or even pretend to. It's a supportive community where business is being done amongst like-minded women, because when money gets in the hands of good women, great things happen. It's a place where you have the support around you to get out of your comfort zone and go after your big ideas, because even when you fail forward or when you reach the top, you know it won't be alone. Also, if you know anything about me, you'll know that I'm obsessed with creating platforms that lift up other women to be seen and heard and known. So with that in mind, I'd like to invite you to list your business on our directory called Find Women in Business. All you've got to do is text the word directory to 833-231-8098, and I'll text you the link back to get your free listing. This is also a great way to connect with other women in business from around the world, so definitely check it out. And now let's get to the good stuff. Grab a glass of your favorite beverage, Prosecco, bubbly water, or whatever your flavor is, and let's dive in. Are you with me? Here we go. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Charity Majors, and today's guest you guys are going to love. His name is Alex Street, and he is your story coach. In today's episode, we chat all about how your actual story is your strength. Now, Alex believes that when you tell your story, you change the world, and I couldn't agree more. As an actor, as a youth pastor, and public speaker for more than 20 years, he knows firsthand how powerful storytelling is when it comes to personal development, business strategy, and cultivating empathy in our world. Now, with his transformation story arc, Alex helps entrepreneurs create a clear message that connects with their audience and changes the world. Alex has coached TEDx speakers, best-selling authors, and seven-figure coaches to find the why rooted in their signature story. He has a master's in theological studies, is a husband of 16 years, and a dad to 3 Gen Z kids living in Toronto, Ontario. And in this episode, we actually have a really great conversation about Alex's Meant for More moment, where he went from being a youth pastor and entertaining this younger generation to really shifting into the entrepreneurial world, and what it looked like to walk into a room full of entrepreneurs, not feeling like he had what it took, not feeling like, oh my gosh, like what am I even doing here? But taking a leap of faith and doing it anyways. We also chat a little bit about some of my favorite stories, some of my favorite Disney stories, and why those things are powerful. So you are definitely not going to want to miss this episode. So enjoy it with Alex Street. And thanks again for being here on the podcast. And welcome to the podcast. I am super, super excited about today's guest, Alex. Thank you so much for being here. We always just have such great conversations every time we chat. And so I am looking forward to today's conversation.
Yes, Charity. This is such a joy and a privilege and an honor. I am just, I'm thrilled for this and ready for where this is going to go. I know that we're not going to mess around. We're going to get into the good stuff here. So I'm excited for this.
I love it. Well, speaking of the good stuff, let's take us back to your meant for more moment, kind of that moment where it's like, oh, like I am, or maybe it's the ugly cry moment on the bathroom floor. Maybe it is the frustrating, want to like punch a hole through a door, like whatever that meant for more moment is for you, where it's like, what I'm doing now, right now is no longer working and I have to change. I have to shift something and I'm ready and willing to take the massive imperfect action. I'm ready to fail. I am ready to go for it. I don't care what it looks like, but what I'm doing, I can no longer be doing. And I know there's more for me out there. So take us back to that moment, kind of what was going on in your head, in your heart, and where it led you.
This is, I love this because this is like the climactic moment, right? This is the tipping point, the change agent. And there's so many that you can pick, that I could pick. And I think a lot of us could pick. And so I'll just land on one. And one of the most recent and significant ones was September 2019, when things really shifted for me. Before that, I had been really spending that year working on building my own new business to focus on like helping organizations work with the next generation. Gen Z matters. And I had this whole idea of like, I'm going to go and speak to organizations and help them understand teenagers and young adults because they're coming into the industry. And I was passionate about all that. And it was not working. Like I did not know what I was doing. It was hard. I took the leap and was paying people to help me and was not bringing in anything. And I said to my friend, I had him on my podcast that I was hosting back then actually. And then it was like, after the episode, he's a phenomenal entrepreneur. I was like, do you know a business coach? Do you know somebody that I could hire to just help me take the right next steps? He's like, dude, you need a coach. You need a mastermind. You need a group of people who are going to guide you. And you got to jump in. I'm part of this mastermind. It's called Fast Foundations and it starts next week. So I know it's big. I know that's quick and it's a big investment, but you're perfect for it. I was like, oh man. And that was big. It was huge. I had no income. We had nothing. So I had to go into savings, take out 10K to go into this thing and decide that with my wife that like, if I'm going to invest in this, it's because I actually believe that this is a business. If I was opening up a brick and mortar store, I'd have to invest. I haven't put anything into this business yet. Truly believe it. And so we did, and I did. And I flew down to LA. And that was, so just getting in was the hands sweating, the shaking. You're going to love this because I was like, yeah, okay. I filled out the information. It was a Saturday morning, filled out the info, put in my credit card number and hit like hands actually shaking, sweat coming down my forehead and hit send. And then it said declined. And I got a text from my credit card company saying, this isn't a normal purchase for you.
Yeah.
Is this actually you? I was like, oh, dang. So I said, yeah. And then the next click was easy because I'd already done it. I'd already decided that. So then the next time that second moment I had to click send, that was the easy one. And I think that's kind of a lesson that I've taken from that is the first one, it seems so scary. But then once you do it, the next time, oh, come on. No problem. And so then I got down there and then there was a whole other kind of meant for more moment throughout that experience. But if we're just looking at the one that really kind of tipped the scales, I'd say it was that conversation that led to that decision that led to networking, conversations, opening me up in ways that I could have never imagined to use my gifts and impact the world the way I am.
Oh, this is so good. I love this. And I kind of want to let's chat about like this first yes, right? That can be like the
Mhm.
scariest, the first button push, the first like, oh my gosh, am I really gonna do this thing? And I actually posted something. I'm just looking at it really quick. But it was something to the lines of exactly what you were saying. Like your first yes might be exactly what opens you up to the
Mm.
adventure that God is calling you on. And that's where, like, even what you said, it was like the first yes then led to the next connection, that led to the next conversation, that led to this thing, that led to,
Yep.
right, the income or the business and what you're doing now, which is
Yep.
amazing. So let's chat a little bit about then what happened from that first yes. Because I think that sometimes we can get into these, right, these meant for more moments where it's like, oh, like I want to like do this thing or create this thing or launch this thing or write this thing and I'm going to like do it.
Yeah.
And we think that it's the first click. We think that it's the first yes. And then it's like, oh, like, right, like
Mhm.
angels
Mhm.
singing in the heavens. And this just all falls
Of
exactly
course.
into place.
Yeah.
But we both know that
It
that's just the
required so
start.
much more. It was
Yeah.
just the start. And that's the thing. You look back, you're like, man, that one moment that was so scary. It it was the first. It was the
Mhm.
first of the many scary moments. And there's been so many now over the last, well, 2 years. We just celebrated. We just went out for dinner a couple of weeks ago to celebrate really the 2 year mark of that, which I would say was the start of this business, my story coaching business or communication coaching. And to look at that and as the first yes, but then there was many more. Even then, to go down and enter this room full of I'm in Toronto and I flew down to LA and it was my first time in West Hollywood. And so I was like, yeah, I get to like walk the Hollywood stars and like the walk of fame and then enter this room full of like perfect people, perfect entrepreneurs, all celebrating and successful, and they look perfect. And I'm just like this guy wearing a sweaty t-shirt because I was just on a scooter all morning. Like, who am I? Where I do not fit in this room. So even to enter that, then to engage in a conversation with somebody and ask them who they are and what they do, and then to admit what I do, those were all more yeses. Those were all more opportunities where I could have pulled the chute. I could have got out of there. I could have said no and run away. But you keep saying yes. It's like every step was a yes. And
Mhm.
then the key was, this was probably the biggest one. Again, we're in that room, and uh, Chris, who was hosting it, says, "Hey, everybody," and does this big intro thing, and then, okay, we're gonna get to know everybody, and so we're gonna go through, and everybody's gonna stand up here, take the microphone, and introduce themselves in 90 seconds. And here's your questions. And we didn't have these ahead of time, so as he's saying those, we're looking at the questions and kind of writing out answers. And he's like, "Okay, so we're gonna go alphabetically by first name, which means Alex. You're up." So I'm like it's just this freezing moment. Now, thankfully, this is where I go like, oh, good. Because actually, for me, like the stage is the most comfortable place,
Yeah.
right? I grew up performing. I grew up watching my mom on stage. I grew up wanting to be on stage. I was a public speaker already. So that to me was actually, oh,
Just a
man,
relief.
yeah. Where I know other people, if they were called first, they wouldn't have been able to get up. Their legs would have been jello and they would have just not been able to do it. And I was like, yes, good. Give me the microphone. And when I did that, this was the changing moment, because I was saying to myself ahead of time, like, I'm here to make Gen Z Matters thrive, to start this business and get all that I need for this. Do not talk about your past. Do not tell them that you used to be a youth pastor. Do not go into this room of entrepreneurs, this successful business people, and tell them that you used to wear a chicken suit and come down from the rafters for this event for 500 teenagers on the weekend. Like, who's going to freaking respect that? That is not the kind of resume that these people want to hear. And what did I do? I got up there. I was like, "Hey, my name's Alex. My business is Gen Z Matters, doing this, and I'm qualified for this because I've been a youth pastor for 15 years. And as I kept going internally, I'm kicking myself in the butt.
Right. Like,
Fucking idiot.
shut up.
You
Don't say
did.
that.
Turn the mic off. And I kept going. And then ended, and it was comfortable and it was good. And they clapped. And I sat down, and the person next to me leaned over and was like, how did you just do that? You need to teach us how to speak like you can speak. I was like, okay. All right. And the littlest seed planted there where I said, oh, that might be what I have to offer these people. And thinking it was something else, and then being so ashamed to actually share the whole story. And then when I did, that was when people saw who I actually was. When I shared the whole story, that allowed me then to shape the world in the way I'm meant to. And somebody later was like, why did you hold back on that? Like, I told him what my mindset. He's like, why'd you hold back? That story is your superpower. The fact that you've spoken on a stage every week plus for the last 10 years, there's professional public speakers who haven't spoken that much. You have to lead with that. I was like, holy crap, this thing that I've been ashamed of, this part of my story that I've been hiding, then became the thing that launched me forward to really focus on, again, my true gift.
I love that so much. And I just love that it was even like your first yes that led to also almost like this shift of like being willing to let go of what you originally thought it was, which there's like, that's a whole nother can of worms, right? Because we can walk into these rooms and say like, all right, like I got this idea, like I finally have clarity, I found this passion, I'm gonna go for it. And then I have to like, right, like hold it with such loose hands is what I like to say, and being willing to evolve, even though it's like this whole new thing. And now it's gonna shift and pivot again.
I love the loose hands. Yeah, I talk about open hands, open
Yeah.
palms. And if you walk through life like that with your hands up, your hands open, it's scary. You think it's scary because what you have could be taken from you or fall out, or just that, as you're saying, it's loose. What if it goes away? But I like to see it in very much the opposite. Now, as the eternal optimist that I am, to see it instead as, well, if your hands are open, then you're ready to receive. So it's not about something being taken away from you, but it's about being open to receive something new. And if you're walking around with closed fists, you're holding on to your ideas for dear life and all these dreams and hopes that you have, well, yeah, you might hold on to those, but you're not going to receive anything new. And so the invitation is, just as you say, loose hands, open palms, so that we can receive what's coming for us.
I love that. I want to go back to what we were talking about, like the power of community and those like people seeing in you what you couldn't see yourself, right? Like this thing you're like, oh, I've been doing this thing like up on stage, like whatever, like keeping the attention of this younger generation every single week, right? Captivating like the most distracted generation in the entire world. And
tell me about it.
right, you're like, that's why I had to come down in a chicken suit, like
I know. What new thing can we do? How do we possibly compete?
Right.
Yep.
But now all of a sudden having someone see something in you and the power of community, because this is actually like I think that, and we can definitely go on this conversation, but the power of community to see in you what you might not see yourself is a superpower or is a gold nugget. So let's just kind of go on that little rabbit trail for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what I needed was, and where I think a lot of people are, especially if you're shifting into some sort of entrepreneurship, you're shifting and starting something on your own that is new, more than likely means that you're coming from something else. And I mean, we're all coming from something to something. But specifically in this space, you're coming from your job as a teacher or your role in corporate, or you've been a stay-at-home mom for 4 years and now you're trying this business, or you went from ministry now into specifically entrepreneurship and business in this way, like myself. And there's this journey from that and from whatever that identity was. And if you were so lucky to actually feel like you were great in that role, like you were really gifted in that role that you were in, then that's one thing. You're like, great, I know this, I'm affirmed in this. People tell me I'm a great mom. People tell me I'm a great youth pastor. People tell me I'm a great boss, whatever that is. So to leave that is scary because what's on the other side? And so to enter a room, to enter a community that then sees you and affirms the gifts in you that you thought were only positive, were only helpful in the space you were in, that I think is the real gift here. That's where that people see you and you get to go, oh, so high trust there and high awareness, but then also really all the opportunities to explore that and test and it created this incredibly trusting environment and friendships and network in which I could then kind of push the boundaries and say, okay, so if I thought that I was good over there, that was good, but apparently those gifts work over here. Now let's see how and what that looks like. And I think that's the real gift of community in this space, in this journey, is giving you that strength to redefine yourself.
Well, I love what you said, like, even like, okay, if my gift can work over here too, right? Like gifts aren't confined to a box of one type of an industry or one type of a room.
Yeah.
And I love that you were intentional, because you guys, we like Alex and I actually, we met through this last round of Fast Foundations, and and it has just been such a really awesome, and would you say this in the community, but like a container for growth, a container for connection, a container for like, yes, like seeing, oh my gosh, like this is what you're really great at, or you should like run with this. And it's like this community that is backing you up and sharing your posts and liking your stuff and giving you encouragement and celebrating with you along the way. And so, gosh, it matters it matters so much who you surround yourself with. And I love what you were said as well about like going from, as you shift from maybe one room to the next room. I want to bring up this point, but who or the rooms that you have been in, they have gotten you to where you have gotten so far, but they might not necessarily be the rooms or the community or the people that will continue either with you on the journey or help propel you forward. Some people will, absolutely, but it's not always those same people. So as you shifted, rooms, as you shifted industries, you kept using the same gifts. Were there people in your life who maybe they didn't understand? Maybe they criticized you. Maybe they were like, why are you leaving this
it's
thing
interesting
and going to the next one?
I that was the fear, right? I created all those stories that, of course, that's what people are going to say. And that's why I was holding back on that story, on sharing that journey. And that was September 2019. It was December, a few months later, that I actually went on my podcast and shared specifically my faith journey, because that was a big bumpy road. And a lot of the reason why I left that role as a youth pastor that I was in for so long, and left that community that really shaped me and helped me explore my gifts and grow in so many of those ways that I had, was that there was a lot of doubts and frustrations and questions. And as I went in and learned more and got educated and got my master's, it's sort of, I just allowed myself to go down that path whatever path I wanted to. And that was the first time that I had actually shared that in a public space, because I was so afraid. And this is where a lot of us are, when you go from one room to another, from one field to another, one community to another, we hold back because we're afraid of losing the respect or losing the community we had, or like they won't like, I can't let go of them, but then will the next community receive me? And so you feel like you're in this like abyss in the middle, this Grand Canyon in the middle, going from one to the other on this shaky bridge. And you're like, will I make it? Will I get across? And at some point you hit this point of no return. And so for me, it was this fear that, yeah, just as you say, these people are going to like, they're going to say, whatever, like you should stay in ministry. You're so good and you should help people for the Lord and don't go out and there and seek money and whatever. I had all these things, all these narratives that I thought people would say. Charity, none of it. None of it made it to my ears anyways. I don't know if they're talking about it behind closed doors, and quite frankly, I don't care. I if that's happening, then it can happen, because where I'm at is, as I say, right? Like more sure that I am using the gifts that have been given to me, that I have received, in a more expansive way and helpful way than I could have thought 8 years ago was possible, 10 years ago. And though it was noble work, now here I am again, I'd say having equal impact, if not much greater, and on the path. So that idea of like, was there anybody that came forward and said, how dare you, or anything? Thankfully, it didn't happen. And I think that fear can hold us back. And if somebody's like worried about that, you need to go for it. You need to share this. The shame is just fear tricking you and holding you back. And until you let it go, then you won't experience what's truly waiting for you.
I love that. That's so good. And I know for me in my journey, one thing that has really helped me kind of face those fears or let go of the shame, or even just expose it and bring it out into the light for, um, to like, right, when it stays in the shadows, it just like can stay there. But when you bring it out into the light, like but that was the power of story and sharing
Yeah.
my story. And when I wrote my book and when I started the podcast and started really sharing what it looked like to go through the journey, for me was loss. And obviously for you as the storytelling coach, like the man, let's chat about the power of story.
Oh, yes, please. Where do we go?
Wherever you want. You are the leader of the ship on this one.
Oh gosh. Your favorite story. One of them.
What did you say?
What's one of your favorite stories?
Oh, one of my favorite stories. I would definitely say, well, there's multiple ones for multiple areas of my life. I would say one of my favorite, let's go Disney. One of my favorite Disney movies, I would say old school one, like when I was little, was Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
And current day is definitely Frozen 2.
Okay. Because you like to sing along.
Oh, for sure.
We've talked about Sleeping Beauty in the past, you and I, but this is where I want to go with this, because the importance of how these stories impact. And so tell me, what's Frozen 2 for you? What stands out to that? What do you feel when you watch that movie?
Well, the first one resonated with me when, like, in the part where she like actually realizes like that her superpowers can be used for good. And then what resonates with me about the second one now is like she is kind of like like harness them. She's created this really great life. Like things are going really, really good. And still inside, right, there's this call for more. Like it's this meant for more
Yeah.
moment where she's like this internal discontentment that she cannot deny, like the next level of where she's being called to go. And
I
right,
can
so
hear you, but I won't.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I won't start singing the whole thing, but yeah.
Right, so she like then goes on this journey of then what it looks like to like stepping into that next level like of the powers that she was divinely created
Yeah.
with, and thinking that she was going to rock the boat, but it was actually ended up best for her, for right, it's this the enchanted forest that was under this spell, and it actually like righted all of the wrongs, and
Yeah.
then like Anna got to be the queen of the kingdom, which she was always meant to be, like the queen of that kingdom kind of thing. um yeah, so I think it like a really, it's like the meant for more part just really resonates with me clearly.
Right. Yeah. Right. So this is it. So, where do I want to go with a storytelling conversation? I think it just has to start right here with you, Charity. The reason that you wrote your book, the reason that you have a podcast, the reason that you get on stage, the reason that you coach people, and you share of yourself so openly, is because you recognize the same thing that the creators of Frozen and any good movie out there today is doing, which is, if we tell this story, the audience will find themselves in it, and they will be moved in some similar way. And this is the power. This is the absolutely wondrous, magical power that humankind has to impact each other, is predominantly through our stories. And stories are only stories because of change. Change is the fundamental piece to any story. If you don't change, there is no story. You stay the same. That's it. The rock stayed in its place. That is not a story. The rock rolled down a hill. Well, now I'm interested. Where's it going to go? Where's it going to end up? Who pushed the rock? How did it start? Now we're opening a story, right? So the fact that you have changed means that you have a story to share. And that story, when shared, can inspire someone else to spark change in their life and transform in the way that we desperately need them to.
Yeah.
That's the power. And in the same way that you see yourself in Elsa's journey, someone sees themselves in your journey. And they need that. They need to hear it.
Yeah.
So here I am trying to inspire people every day to share the world and share their story and shape this world, because it's the most powerful tool that we have.
So good. Now, when it comes to sharing our story, what would you say is somewhat of like the biggest hang up that people come across when they like finally open up and crack open this story? And I know we talked about it, so you guys, I was on Alex's podcast, so make sure to check out that episode, and we talked about how when you have your story compared to when your story has you. Right, so there is definitely a difference in healing from your story and having processed through that to be able to share it. But what would you say are some of the kind of those ceilings that people come up against when sharing their story in an effective way that really helps create that transformation and that change and that inner, oh my gosh, I can see myself in that story, I'm going to go do that thing too?
I think, some people just think that they're not good storytellers, and unfortunately it might be true. So but the thing is, and we'll get to this in just a second, so there are tricks that you can learn to become a better storyteller. That's actually the easy part, believe it or not. And so some people, you think they're just gifted natural storytellers. A lot of comedians are amazing storytellers. There's a lot of speakers that a lot of podcasters, some people have that. They're born with that. They grew up surrounded by it. It comes easy. For those that think I'm not a good storyteller, again, there's ways to get around that, but I don't think that's actually the problem. I think the problem is that you think that your story is not good. You think that your story is too complicated. You think your story is a boring story. And, you know, the basis for my podcast, No Boring Stories, is there's no boring story, just boring storytellers. So let's help you tell a better story, because your story is already amazing. So I hear people say this all the time. They come to me saying, my story's too complicated, my story's too big, my story's confusing, my story doesn't have a meant for more moment, you know, to use your language. My story doesn't have a big moment, or my story has too many big moments. How could I possibly shrink this all down into something bite-sized? All of those come up. And then I think the one more than anything, just wouldn't respect, you know, where I came from. They wouldn't care. Who cares? Who cares where I grew up? Nobody cares. And if they don't care, then they're not going to like it. And if they don't like it, well, then they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth around me. And so, no, it's not worth it. All of that comes up whenever we start talking about stories. And yet, everybody knows if I'm going to stand out in this world, I need to share my story more. So we need to somehow align those thoughts. We need to bridge that gap and help people tell a better story so that they can stand out and realize that that's going to shape the world.
I love that. So what would you say, like, when it comes to, right, like even this languaging or this, like, right, this stereotype that I would say is in kind of Christian circles, like, oh, like, don't stand out, like, don't, like, be humble, like, don't talk about yourself, like I just think it's really
I
stupid.
get it.
Um,
You know,
what?
I like,
Right.
but I used to get that because after I would give a sermon or something, and then come down off stage and somebody would say, oh, thank you. That was so good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what am I like? Yeah, you're right. There's this teaching almost that I'm supposed to deflect that. And so somebody says thank you to me because I put in a ton of work to create this 35-minute talk that would inspire and engage and help people. And they say thank you because I have helped them in some way. And then I'm supposed to automatically deflect that and go, no, it's for the Lord. Like, it's for him. No, yeah, it's to his glory.
Right.
Fine. Take that, do that, run with that, whatever you want. But if we're constantly deflecting and never actually absorbing the gift that people are giving us through thanks, through recognition, that saying that your work and your story mattered, then we're creating an actual, like, destructive version of ourselves. We're creating this understanding that who I am and the work that I put in didn't matter.
Yeah.
And so I just had to talk because
No,
I hear
love
that
it.
and I
love
sense
it.
that. And I think that there's a nuance to it for sure, but it can be destructive to go through and think about that and think I'm never supposed to talk or receive or value
one of
myself.
one of my mentors, he always jokes, he's like, well, like, like in the worship leader community or like as a speaker or whatever, like people are like, oh, that was so good. And you're like, oh, that was just, that was Jesus. And it's like,
Right.
Come on, like, you are that good. Like,
yeah.
Right. Like,
Right.
it was good, but it wasn't like Jesus good. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's good. I like that.
So it's both. It's like receive and like, yeah.
Yeah. And recognize that, yeah, you're a part of something much bigger. I think it's both. And I heard somebody walk around once with 2 notes in their pocket. I think it's actually a Jewish tradition is 2 notes in their pocket. One of them says, the universe was made for you. And the other one says, to dust I will return. And it's this recognition that, yeah, I am part of the heavens and earth made by the maker. Like, holy crap, what an amazing big thing. And I am so valued and so important. I am seen and known. And also I'm here
Not
for
that
what,
big of a deal.
but a vapor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can balance those, then I think that's this effort of like, yeah, wasn't Jesus good? But yeah, it was good. Like it, but, and also like, yeah, I recognize that it's not all about me, but also I know that my story will help.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would I have a voice?
Yeah, I love that. And that's the truth that lives in the tension of 2 paradigms, right? And that's where I'm such a firm believer that it, like, That's where truth lives. It's in the tension of these two things. And you can't just like stake a camp like on this one thing. Like,
Mhm.
and then like that's it. And that's the end all be all do all whatever like that. It's a
It's
box.
a mantra that I've had for really almost 20 years now is whenever I come across some sort of confusing point, I just go, well, like there's always something bigger going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something bigger going on.
Yep.
So even if you land on it, you're like, I've solved it. No, sorry. Like good, but there's always something bigger. So keep exploring, keep looking, keep going. And I think that it just gets more and more interesting.
I love that. So speaking of something bigger, where is that internal call of being meant for more? Before we finish out, before I know you guys are wanting to like dive into Alex's world and go check out his podcast and go follow him on Instagram, which his reels are awesome. You guys definitely go find him on Instagram. But where are you being called to? What's that internal voice of more? Where are
Gosh,
you? Where's the expansion? Where are you going?
it's really it's interesting because it's almost like there's always a call for more with
Mm-hmm.
me. It's Enneagram 7 is kind of the like I never land in one place. I'm always looking for what's next. And yet that what's next is really hard to define. It's really just about looking for me. It's there's something out there. And in this world where I'm at right now, it makes sense that the more is more impact through storytelling, more coaching, more group, whatever this looks like. Where's the to get on a stage in a stadium and inspire people in that way? Like that's what it looks like in my mind to partner with organizations that are giving young people voices in this world and sharing their own stories at young ages. How do I get involved with that? How do I start something of my own around that? This is where it's going for me. But it's pretty hard to define at this point. I'm just sort of see these, images. And I look at the window right now. It's almost like clouds out there. I'm like, I can see them, but they're also kind of shifting and shaping as they go. And that seems to be my future. But you're right, there is a call towards it. And my effort is to try to be obedient to keep going.
So good. Well, Alex, I love everything that you are up to, and there is such power in story. So thank you for creating the space, as well as the equipping to have people know that their story, it matters, it's healing, it is worth being told, and it's something that can transform people's lives. So Alex, where can people find you, follow you, get into your world?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my home is alexstreet.ca. You can go and explore there. I hang out on Instagram all the time. And yeah, as you say, I'm putting stuff up there all the time and engaging in conversations. So find me on Instagram at Street Says there, and I'm going to help you tell stories, to speak more clearly, and hopefully put a smile on your face any given day. And right now, I've also got the Fearless Speakers Academy membership, which is my monthly membership. I show up in there 2 times a month and do group coaching, all around helping you become a fearless speaker. So I would love for your listeners to go and dive into that. They get a 14-day free trial. And then after that, it's $15 a month. I just don't think there's a better deal out there. And it's an amazing growing community, and I would love to see them in there. So that's at alexstreet.ca. Again, you can find out all the stuff about Fearless Speakers Academy there.
I love it. Alex, thank you so much for being here and for your time. And it's always so great to connect with you.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope it brought some value and some fun into your business and life. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and even share the episode with a fellow business bestie who you know will love it. It helps us continue to attract top-level guests and reach more and more women who are on their journey in business just like you. Remember that when money gets in the hands of good women, great things happen. Cheers to your success.